Welcome back to The Survival Historian, where we uncover the forgotten knowledge that kept our ancestors alive against impossible odds. Today, we're stepping into the workshops of Roman engineers, where survival wasn't just about outlasting the enemy. It was about outlasting time itself. Imagine wooden structures standing for centuries in humid climates, defying every natural force bent on their destruction. The Romans achieved this without a single synthetic chemical or power tool. What they possessed was something far more valuable: understanding. Let's dig into the earth of ancient construction sites and uncover secrets that modern builders are only now beginning to rediscover. When we think of Rome, we see marble columns and stone arches stretching toward the heavens, but beneath this eternal facade lay a hidden skeleton of timber, massive wooden trusses spanning basilicas, bridge supports anchoring stone piers across rushing rivers, water pipes feeding entire cities, and the frameworks of warehouses storing the grain that fed an empire. Wood was everywhere, performing the heavy lifting of Roman civilization. Yet wood is organic, vulnerable, a feast for fungi and insects in the Mediterranean's humid summers. Every Roman engineer knew this truth: leave untreated timber in contact with moisture, and within a generation it would crumble into worthless pulp. The survival of Rome's infrastructure depended on solving this fundamental problem, and solve it they did through methods that reveal a sophisticated understanding of organic chemistry that wouldn't be formally documented for another millennium. The Romans didn't simply burn wood. They transformed it through controlled charring, a technique called carbonization that created a shield against nature's assault. This wasn't the work of careless flames, but precise application of heat to penetrate specific depths into the timber's surface. When wood chars properly, the outer layer converts to carbon, creating a barrier impervious to water penetration and toxic to the microorganisms that cause rot. Archaeological evidence from Roman bridge foundations reveals this meticulous approach. Timbers show char depths carefully calibrated to protect without compromising structural integrity. The carbonized layer repelled moisture like a natural tar, while its altered chemistry made it indigestible to insects and inhospitable to fungal spores. Roman carpenters would have worked by firelight, rotating massive beams over controlled flames, reading the color and texture of the char like a language, knowing that too little left the wood vulnerable and too much weakened its core. This was survival engineering at its finest, using the destructive power of fire as a preservative tool. But fire was only the beginning. Romans developed chemical treatments that sound almost alchemical in their sophistication. Pliny the Elder documented the use of cedar oil as a wood preservative, a substance so effective that timber treated with it became legendary for its longevity. Yet the Romans went further, experimenting with combinations that modern analysis has only recently confirmed. Alum, a mineral salt, was mixed with olive oil to create an impregnation solution that penetrated deep into timber fibers. Archaeological samples from Roman harbor installations show timber infused with volcanic compounds, derivatives of the same pozzolana that made Roman concrete legendary. These volcanic materials, rich in silicates and aluminum compounds, were worked into solution and applied to wood destined for wet environments. Seawater soaking, documented by the agricultural writer Palladius, introduced salt deep into timber, creating an environment where decay organisms simply couldn't survive. These weren't random experiments, but systematic applications of observed chemistry, each method tailored to specific environmental challenges. Perhaps the most profound Roman innovation wasn't a treatment at all, but strategic design that acknowledged wood's vulnerabilities and worked around them. Roman engineers understood a principle that modern builders sometimes forget. The best way to preserve wood is to keep it away from the conditions that destroy it. They elevated timber on stone foundations, ensuring direct soil contact never occurred. Drainage systems channeled water away from wooden structural elements with obsessive precision. Overhanging roofs protected exposed timbers from driving rain. Ventilation wasn't accidental, but engineered. Gaps in construction allowed air to circulate, preventing the stagnant moisture that breeds rot. Most ingeniously, Romans exploited an environmental paradox: wood permanently submerged below the groundwater table, completely denied oxygen, doesn't decay. Bridge pilings driven deep into riverbeds, foundation timbers sunk beneath the water table, even wooden water pipes buried in saturated soil. All survived because anaerobic conditions prevented the growth of decay organisms. Standing in the ruins of Roman engineering today, we're forced to confront an uncomfortable truth. In our rush towards synthetic solutions, we've often ignored principles that sustained civilizations for millennia. Modern sustainable building movements are rediscovering charring, now called shosugiban in its Japanese form, as a chemical-free preservative. Natural oil treatments are returning to favor as builders question the environmental cost of pressure-treated lumber. The Roman approach wasn't just about preserving wood. It was about understanding material, environment, and design as an integrated system. Every charred beam, every oil-soaked timber, every elevated foundation represented not just technical knowledge, but survival thinking. The recognition that working with natural processes rather than against them creates solutions that endure. The survival historian looks at Roman timber preservation and sees more than ancient building techniques. We see the mindset that built an empire. Observe carefully, test thoroughly, and never assume that because something is organic, it must be temporary. These engineers made wood immortal not through force, but through understanding. If this journey into Roman engineering ingenuity fascinated you, hit that like button and subscribe to The Survival Historian. Share this with anyone who believes that modern solutions are always superior to ancient wisdom. Next time, we'll explore how Roman military engineers built bridges in enemy territory using nothing but local materials and tactical brilliance. Until then, remember, the best survival tool is knowledge, and history is the greatest teacher. Stay curious, stay prepared.